This is that whole idea of keeping the system complete. Okay, until about 2014, we really didn't respect the borders. You know, they were just there. But when we started realizing, look at the pollination, look at the flowering, look at the cover that it's giving. Most farmers in California don't want to see one animal on their ground. Okay, they honestly don't. And we do have owl boxes there. We probably have a few more gophers than we want. But for the most part, we feel our system's running right when we're seeing foxes and deers and raccoons and possums and squirrels and gophers and rabbits, because now this is the way it's supposed to be, right? You don't want to pull one. I'm actually sort of the opposite of science. They want to pull one part out and look at it. I don't want one part pulled out. I want to keep the whole system as close as possible to just being a complete system that runs on its own.
Welcome to the Real Organic Podcast. I'm Lindley Dixon, co-director of the Real Organic Project. We're a grassroots, farmer-led movement with an add-on organic food label to distinguish organic crops grown in healthy soils and organic livestock raised on well-managed pasture, all without synthetic fertilizers and toxic chemicals. You just heard from California veggie grower Scott Park, who presented to a room full of real organic farmers this past fall on Farmer Friday, the day before our larger event at Churchtown Dairy in Hudson, New York. As a prolific row crop farmer in California and someone who dedicates a lot of time, money, brain space, and land to experimenting with techniques that might better his soil and his farm's bottom line, Scott shared a lot about what does and doesn't work for him, especially when it comes to tillage and drastically limiting off-farm inputs. As Scott said, the norm in California is bare, overworked soil, especially in the winter. In contrast, Scott's farm, Park Farming Organics, uses cover crops and elaborate crop rotations. He says the mantra in winter in his area is brown is beautiful, green is gross. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you'll get to see Scott's entire presentation and all of his great slides. The audio-only version of today's episode has been shortened, and while we did include all of Scott's bold opinions, we left out the nuts and bolts of his successful farming techniques. So we encourage anyone who wants to learn more to head over to YouTube and see examples of a Real Organic certified California row crop farmer who farms with natural systems at scale.
Thanks for inviting me. Everybody hear me okay? Dave and Lindley. So yeah, this has been, I'll end up speaking pretty loud. As time goes on, I'm going to go off on rants. So, you know, just get ready, because we're not going to follow a lot of rhyme or reason here. And it is interesting for me. I have spoke quite a bit. I have classes come from UC Davis, and I have corporations and state and come. But I always have people that, for the most part, I feel they don't really know what I'm going through, but I feel pretty comfortable you all know what I'm going through. Okay, so and it's kind of, hopefully I'm relevant to ranchers and what have you. The concept that we're going to go on today is basically, how do you make a profit, you know, with improving the environment, improving the lives of the people around you. And each of us has whatever we have, our ability on where we're at. Myself, I'm a field and row crop grower, actually it's on 1,700 acres. So, but yeah, that's right, there's a reason for this. So yeah, the term, a normal California farm, farmed abnormally, what I'm getting at there is that we are a normal in size and crops to a California farmers. A lot of them are a lot larger, but ours is pretty representative. The uniqueness of it is that we're doing what normal farms do, but we're doing it with improving the soil every year and doing it with 100%. Our inputs have shrunk to almost nothing. So we've got a functional farm that could be representative for anywhere in the United States or really in the world, because the concepts are the same as all of what you're doing in your world. So, you know, as you'll see, taking care of the soil, and tilling. Next. Let's see, work that back one, this one. There we go. So my son's taken over the farm, but Ul and I got going. Quick story, I have no roots, I'm first generation. Actually have a degree in political science. Okay, the applicability of that to farming, but maybe there is. I actually was, as I said, I do a lot of stuff with UC Davis, and the head of the soil microbiology department surprisingly said to me, Scott, I think you have an advantage on how you think and why you think the way you think. And I'm going, what's that? And she's going, because you've never been trained how to think like a farmer. You've never been trained and gone through, and I'm not meaning to criticize those that have taken, right? You've got maybe PhDs in ag, but basically, you know, I came into this without a preconceived idea of how to do anything. And so I basically, from 1974 to 85, cloned all the other farmers around me. And whatever they did, that was right. And what they did was a lot of chemicals. So through the first 11, 12 years, that's what I did. And then I started seeing that all our costs were going to the moon. We weren't getting any better yields. You know, like we are at a dead end. And so how do you make this thing work? And it just worked out in 85. I picked up a field from another farmer. This is all rotating tomatoes. At those days, that's the only way you got into farming if you weren't generational, is you had to be a whack job to grow processing tomatoes, because it's really high risk. You can lose all your money in 1 year. And so most everyone owned their own ground. Why would they mess with that? They could use government subsidies, grow wheat, rice, safflower, be safe and comfortable, bring in the idiot to grow the tomatoes, which actually also would make their next crop better by having tomatoes in the rotation. Then you get kicked off that and you go to another field. So you're basically a gypsy wandering in the Sacramento Valley, scrounging up acreage. And then in 85, so I picked up this field and it worked up beautifully. And it wasn't working up where we have gigantic lunkers and the soil is just destroyed. And so I started thinking about what are these people doing different? It wasn't organic, but they were very careful in general with the soil. They ran really light equipment. They waited as long as they could before they got on the ground. Whereas all of our other farmers, including myself, was you just powered your way through. You just got bigger equipment, you ran deeper equipment, you made more passes, you used more fuel and labor, but by God, you beat that soil into the condition that you wanted it in. And these people, so I pulled in this old D7 and a ripper into this field, expecting that it's going to take 3 passes, grinding, roaring of the engine. It's just like, you know, like, wow, this is the way I want to farm. This makes sense. And so that started me on the journey that we've gone on. So you've read most of this. We are 100% regenerative organic certified. I'd love to discuss that sometime with any of you. Personally, I think it's, I don't think it's worth it, and I think it's taking things in the wrong direction. We actually did it because we had buyers begging us in order for them to market the term, right, regenerative. And so anyway, but that's for another day. Yeah, next. So, no, that's too big of a jump. One back, go the other way. There you go. I feel like, how many people have ever seen processed tomatoes in any way other than Paul? Okay, not many. So we're having a quick tomato 101, okay, just so you understand, because the processing tomatoes are the foundation of our farm. And they have been since day one, okay? They're really high value. You can make a lot of money on it. They're really good rotational crop. And so anyway, that's why you sort of need to understand, especially on the tillage side, what we do and why we do it. Okay, so this is just a picture of this, and you can see it's tilled. It's nice. So all our fields are furrow irrigated. You can see the pipes laying over that. Does anyone need an explanation on what furrow irrigation is?
It's basically just a flood, right?
Well, in those furrows, right, running in the furrows. So most California farming on veg crops is drip systems, and we stay away from drip. It's a long story. So anyway, this is like 5 weeks old. Next. Okay, this is the middle of the season. You can see water running. That's what the tomato plants look like. These are planted. There's just one plant like every 15 inches on a 5-foot bed. So they can grow fairly robustly. Next. So we grow for a few canneries, but we also grow specifically for Heinz and for Campbell's soup. And actually the Campbell's soup, Pacific Foods. If any of you buy Pacific Foods, it's a cardboard thing. It's all over national. We'll have our tomato product will be on the label of Pacific Foods probably in a month or two. Yes.
I can't help but wonder why Campbell's, why Heinz? You know, you're offering this product that seems just so much above what those labels represent. I'm just so curious why they're your buyers.
Mostly marketing. They will give lip service to sustainability and caring. And I don't mean to knock them. That's corporations, that's power, that's money. I will say Campbell's is making Campbell's Soup, which is now no longer Campbell's Soup. It's Campbell's Company. Time moves on. But they actually are trying as hard as they can to change California conventional Campbell's growers, and they're going absolutely crazy. It's almost, and what they're doing, they're coming up with a little bit of money, but there's a lot of grants and stuff right now in California, probably everywhere, right? The government's throwing a lot of money. It's sustainability, and so like they're encouraging that. But for the most part, I can honestly say that, and we have other corporations we're dealing with, wonderful at giving lip service to caring. But if it's not showing on the bottom line, sorry, we're going somewhere else. Yeah.
And a follow-up to that is, are processing tomatoes similar to like California nut growers where you don't know your price until you get your check in the mail? Or do you have a contract with them that you know what you're signing up for, or your tomatoes are gone before you even know the price they're paying for them?
For the most part, we know. However, we're in 51 years now, I've been doing this wrong. Slow learner. What they do is you plant, you're coming in, you start planting in March, okay, or early April. And so you're negotiating prices. And they just don't get it quite where it's not done yet. Well, go ahead and plant. Okay, so we start planting transplants. We're putting them in. What are these transplants good for except for processing tomatoes? Right? I mean, what am I going to do with 20,000 tons of tomatoes if I don't like the price? They got us. And so for 51 years, you go back and forth with the cannery. Oh, I want this price. Nah, we'll give you this. And well, you better plant. Your transplants are getting awfully tall in the greenhouse. Go ahead and get those in the ground. So we get them planted. And then we start arguing on price again. They're going, what are you going to do with those fields that are all full of transplants? They got us. You know, But they're saying it's a time thing for us. We can't go, well, we're just going to hold off for 3 weeks to plant, you know, unless we get the price set. I mean, the cannery has a really tight schedule. You know, when we're planning a plant in the 20th of March, that's destined to be run through the cannery August 2nd. I mean, it's just, they've got to be organized, we've got to be organized. And so they play the hold off the price game. I think I've probably had a price settled maybe twice in 51 years before I planted. So. Yes, Bob.
Are you getting any interest in your nutrient density work?
None yet. Like Campbell's is very interested, okay, but they're not coming up with money and saying, we want, well, no, and just like the example you gave, that's a great one of doing a conventional with the organic. So they're in a perfect position to have our tomatoes coming in and conventional growers, like part of Campbell's cannery is one's dedicated to organic and the other's dedicated to conventional, but they've got the both coming in same day. They could have the same variety planted the same day. They could duplicate the whole thing and then run just what you're saying, nutrient dense trials and verifying it and marketing it. But I'm not sure why they're gun shy of it. And there's other canneries and there's other crops just you might be interested in knowing that the buyers say we don't want to be associated with organic, because if we're associated with organic, we're implying that our conventional is pesticide laden. Well, it is pesticide laden. But anyway, so they've actually just said that point blank. We don't want to look wrong. We don't want to make our main market look bad. Yeah, no, there's lots of games going on. And on this regenerative organic, you know, I mentioned that we were persuaded to go that way. I actually feel quite strongly that that's completely the wrong way to go. But our buyers were going, please do this. And we've just watched their purchase of our product diminish every year. In other words, they're not moving it. And even though they asked us to jump through all the hoops, even though we qualify for it, they're not standing by their word and going, we asked you to do this, now we're going to stand by and give you this many tons or this many pounds or whatever. You know, it's all, is it working in the marketing? We love you. Can we have more? You know, it's not working on the marketing? No.
So your concern about that isn't around the program itself, it's more about the marketing end of it?
Of regenerative? Well, I think it's just going the way of natural, sustainable, unfortunately, organic. I mean, the hydroponic CAFOs, look at how that's watered down the meaning of organic. So the regenerative, same thing. So as another example of this, and this is in the tomato industry, is we are contacted by a cannery going, well, we'd like your regenerative tomatoes. And I think, you know, I interrupted, you mean regenerative organic certified tomatoes. No, we want regenified. We want, not regenerative, regenerative. And so I'm going, well, why not regenerative organic? And they're going, because our cannery isn't certified organic. But they didn't say it. We can really market the word regenerative. So we don't truly care what the hell you're doing. But if we can get product from you that says regenerative, that's to our advantage. Yeah, so that's some of the trends of what's going, and total misuse of the term of regenerative. Organic farming is regenerative. Probably in this group, I would guess, huh, Paul? Like 99% of you qualify as your regenerative farmers. You didn't start farming thinking you're regenerative. That's a natural process of what you're doing. You know, regenerative, it's almost duplicating the word. Of course, I'm not going to show you a 20 ton to the acre crop, right? This is a 62 ton to the acres of tomatoes. We grow about 20,000 tons of tomatoes every year over a month's time. Next, please. So this is what a tomato harvester looks like. It goes, technology, a lot of it's dependent on electronic eyes, and we can harvest really fast. Next. So this is a back shot, but just for, you know, farmers or mechanic junkies, that this can do 50 tons an hour. We run 3 to 4 weeks, doing about 800 tons a day. Runs pretty much day and night every day until we get the tomato crop off. Just as this picture here, I remember taking it very well because they were about 10 feet from making it to the end of the row, and that was the end of tomato harvest. So like, there's not much better feeling than that last 10 feet when you got it done, you made it through another season, you paid the bills, and you know no better, so you just go do it again. Next. Okay, so I can just get a couple for you who haven't been in California. The only good farming in California for 99% of farmers is bare ground, okay? Brown is beautiful, green is gross, okay? So if you have a completely sterilized environment, you're doing what you should do. And if you've pulverized the soil to death, that's a good farmer. That's where the landowners drive by and actually go, oh, how beautiful is that it's just a square box of a bed that's been completely pulverized. And so you get rains coming through and standing water is no big deal. Next. So this one on the right, that's what the ground looks like after that standing water disappears. I mean, it's for sure it's dead, and then plus working it up, it's a mess. So on the left, that's what we try to have on every field. I use that quote from Buckminster Fuller, kind of just as a driving point, like, don't worry about how others are judging what you're doing. If you believe that what you're doing is, one, your profit, but your change is applicable and can be applied to others, maybe in time you can just dissolve the other system. As farmers just see, there's a better way to do this that I can make money. And I'm going to mention money and profit a lot, but that's what's real on getting farmers to change, okay? They're not going to change because they're worried about the environment. The best is to get a change where by them managing the environment correctly, they're making a profit. And that's the way I feel it's always got to be presented to farmers. Next. So this is just the last conventional tillage, like this one is, this probably setup right here probably costs $1 million. Needless to say, it's not mine. It's a wheat field. Needless to say, you don't see any wheat straw. But that's it. This is good farming. This is coming in and absolutely overpowering whatever situation you have on the ground. You just beat it to death. And one pass, owners of this will brag, oh, look at how much I get done in one pass. Well, you need to do all that ripping to get rid of all the compaction you got from the giant tractor that you're running. Next. So this is after giving talks and stuff, especially for the talking to UC Davis students, I was kind of feeling like I needed more structure. I needed a train of thought. Plus, I also realized, and everything I'm going through here too is totally serendipitous, right? That, it's not like in 1985, I experienced this ground and then I went, okay, now I got it figured out. Now we're just going to go through this process and reach nirvana, okay? No, total stumbling along, total mistakes. If I learned from my mistakes, I'd be Einstein. I mean, it's been a continual learning curve, but it's also then you're kind of finding out what you shouldn't do, and that what's left is maybe what you should do. Okay, so this is put together, I call it the 9 C's. That's the inputs, okay? And then if the 9 C's are functioning, you've got your plant health in the green, and you've got your petals. These are all the positive results. And then up in the air is your desired impact, but a little more difficult to manage. And then the yellow arrows back and forth is giving utmost recognizing the value of the symbiotic relationship between the plant feeding the microbes and the microbes feeding the plant. It's not just from down under, okay? It's that working relationship between the two. And so this is, and the other idea on this is that I'm really sick and tired of academia wanting to split and break everything up into pockets. And it's like if you do A, B, and C, you get D. Where ours is going, no, everything matters. And in our farm and in our rotations, we'll see impacts of stuff that we did 6 years prior. And in those 6 years, we've maybe had 5 or 6 cover crops planted, 5 or 6 different crops, but we did something 6 years ago. So it's not like, oh, I just do this and I get this. No, you're weighing the impact that everything. That's why I even include crew care and everything impacts the end result. It's not just you show up, you put in these inputs and you get these results. And it's viewing it from a long-term approach, like definitely not instant gratification. Like we grow crops such as wheat, we don't make any money on wheat. But it's really good in the long run for the soil and building it up. So you take your losses, your trade-offs there, because in the end, in years down the road, your ground's going to be better, you're going to have less problems, and so you accept that, and then you get a good tomato crop because you've taken care of the soil, and you get that money back. You can't just look like for the people doing rotational growth, and each one of us, we're not cutting a fat hog every day, and that's the attitude you've got to have. Is take care, and then it's going to work itself out over time. Next. So I'm going to run real quick through the 9 C's. Cover crops are the king. They're, of those 9 C's, if somebody said you had to have one, the cover crops is the one that I would say we have to have. And for all the reasons it's listed below. And we're also finding, without trying again, that it really helps having this life both on the soil and on the border because we're having 0 insect problems. Okay, and it's not because I figured out some system of putting these beneficials out or doing this or that. This is just creating an environment that letting nature do what nature can do. Okay, so cover crops, whenever we have a chance to plant them, we're planting them probably, I should say up there 365 because it sounds good, but we probably average 300 days where we have something growing. Like when you'll see on tomatoes, they completely clear out the ground, and it's like in September, we plant a cover crop, but we use the rain to get the cover crop going. Well, the rain might not come until the middle of November. The soil might sit bare for 45 days, but again, it's economically, that's what's sensible. Next, please. So you're going to see some examples, some pretty wild growth. This is late rains in the spring, so this was a crop of bell beans, Austrian peas, and vetch, but it kept on raining, and we didn't get in here until late April. This is my son, who now has a farm, and he's 6'2", okay? It's not like he's 3'6", okay? He's 6'2". But what the fascinating thing is that, so he's sitting where we ran a chopper, and then we went in and we disced it in. This was back quite a few years ago, but we'd still disc it in, and it was just like potting soil with all that biomass, but because it was a legume, it just broke. It was just absolutely beautiful. We needed to do nothing else, and it was ready to plant. Next. So this is for grazing. We organize our cover crops that when we know we don't have to plant in early March or early April. Anything later, we'll plant to fit sheep grazing. So we graze, whatever works, it's got to fit our cash crop, but we'll graze it. Next, please. So this is the same picture. This is now sheep. We bring about 2,000 in. We graze in spring, and we graze in the fall. And in the fall, they're mostly taken like they're going into corn. We try and interplant like black eyes and what have you, that they can feed on the corn and have some green in there. We're also now tinkering with adding clover. We think we've missed the boat on the black eyes. We haven't done that well. And the yellow you see in the distance, we're going to see more yellow as this goes on. That's like mustard starting to go nuts, that the grazing's not getting across the ground fast enough. Also, it sounds really good to go sheep replacing mowers. No, it doesn't happen, okay? And the reason it doesn't happen is they don't get across the ground fast enough. So they'll graze this, and in a week, everything they've chewed on has grown back up, okay? And so it looked really good, but now you go into work and you're waiting for the sheep to get across the ground, and by the time they're out of the way, now we've got cover crop this tall again, and we've got to go in and chop it. But anyway, it sounds good. Next. So this is on conservation tillage. This is one of the C's. This is our best example of how we are doing conservation. This is no-till. So this is taken after a rice crop, just chopping it, going in and drilling a vetch crop. On the right is what the vetch crop looks like 2 months later. Okay, when we first started doing this, it was like cardiac crop. Like, where is it? Why isn't it growing? What's going on? But so it's just that, and some of this is of no-till of the problem. The ground stays really cold in the winter. The veg just doesn't want to grow. It's not the rice's fault or anyone's fault, but eventually the rice will take off and grow really well. Next, please. So ideally, we've done this crop rotation, but we don't do it all the time, but we try to. Okay, so the idea is that one crop's helping the next crop, and the cover crops are also helping and correcting something that was grown in the past. Okay, so we take a corn crop off, like, maybe we interplanted clover or black eyes, and then that's grazed. Now we know we're going into rice, so if we know we're going into rice, that's when we'll plant a multi-species crop, okay? Because we're not going to be planting it into May. So we have time to have this process slow, where so many things for our farm is going on in middle of March to middle of April. And that's why you'll see here later right there that we plant a legume for our early planted crops. So we graze it, then we plant rice. So that's the rice following the multi-species. We take the rice off, then we go into that picture we just showed, okay, of the no-till drilling into the rice. We no-till vetch into that, and that's what we get down below here. That's a purple vetch. Okay, no pointer. So then up in the right-hand corner, that's the crop ready to harvest. And so we'll harvest the vetch, And just think of our costs. Almost no cost. We just chopped the rice and drilled it. We have the cost of the vetch seed, which planted. We don't do anything else. It comes to harvest. And so we'll harvest and maybe we'll get 1,200 pounds to 1,500 pounds an acre, and we'll get about 75 to 85 cents for it. So we're bringing in like $1,100, $1,000 an acre with almost zero cost. But everything's getting better, right? All that rice straw is still there, untouched. All the vetch is there making the ground better, plus we're making $1,000 an acre. And so then we follow up after the vetch. That comes off in the middle of May. Ideally, then we plant a summer multi-species cover crop, because now we've adjusted. The rice takes all nutrients out of the ground, completely sucks the ground dry, particularly of nitrogen. That's why it fits to go plant a legume after it, because a legume loves an environment of low nitrogen. Okay, so then after that's taken off, now we want to start building the soil up. This is an opportunity. Every opportunity we have to change, mix it up, that's when we'll plant a multi-species. You know, maybe turnips are in it, millets in it, sun hemp, stuff like that doesn't normally go, because it's just a dead time on the farm. This is time to improve it. So that'll come off in the fall. Now we're planting another cover crop, but this cover crop fits what's the next crop, tomatoes, is going to be, because we need this crop to be easy to put into the ground. We don't want a bunch of cereals. So this will get worked in early March, and then we'll plant tomatoes afterwards. And the tomatoes will do really well. Like, look at how good everything is done before the tomatoes are planted. And the tomatoes are the boss for us. Tomatoes are what we make the big money on. So let's set it up on this dead time. All the time, let's be setting it up so when the tomatoes come, now we don't have to do a bunch of manipulation of trying to make the ground right. The ground is right. Next. So this is what rice straw looks like. My grandson out there straightening me out, but yeah, it's really dense. There's really a lot of biomass, probably about 6-7 tons to the acre we get. So I don't know if I count. We put 10 to 15 tons of biomass in every acre every year, okay? And that's in the form of crop residue, compost, and cover crops. So the whole, as you're going to see, our whole idea is we keep feeding the system, okay? And I certainly, as time went on, I used to think I could manipulate it. You know, maybe put manganese in. Oh, give it a bump of zinc. Oh, it's a little low on potassium. And all I was doing was spending money and having no impact. So, like, our farm operates on, no, just keep taking care of the soil. Don't compact it. Don't over-irrigate it, which we'll get to. And let nature figure it out. Plus, your costs are really low. Your risk factor is less. You don't need to have the crop of crops to brag about in John Deere, okay? All you're concerned about is net profit and taking care of the planet and taking care of people. Next, yeah. So we are a relatively large farm, so everything is on GPS. All our tractors are sub 1 inch, and when you're growing row crops, Paul would certainly support, the closer you can cultivate, the better. Because weeds are our nemesis. So all our fields every tractor has the same program. Everything's done sub 1 inch. And everything is done by GPS. So our driver here, I'm not sure what music he's dancing to, but he doesn't have any concern. And in fact, it's such the case that in the tractor, it's programmed that when you get within 100 feet of the edge of the field, you get a beep to wake you up. Okay, so then you can turn the tractor, line it up, and make your next pass and go back to sleep. Next. So compost, another one. We're spreading compost, but and this is one of the problems that we have if somebody's pushing no-till on us is look at what happens. You saw earlier the picture of the tomatoes being harvested with those gondolas that were getting filled up with tomatoes. They do major compaction to the edge of the bed. Okay, we can't leave that alone. And then plus look at the amount of thatch per se. We don't have it. Okay, so for us to go in and try and build the thatch, which I think is really important, right, for getting no-till to work, and tomatoes are the drivers of our farm. There were probably, of the 27 fields, probably 8 of them a year are going into tomatoes. There's no way we're going to ever take any time building thatch. Plus, now we have to get in and we have to break this up, okay? So we're spreading the compost. The tomatoes come off, we spread the compost. We'll see where we rip the furrows, and then we just leave it alone. Then we'll go in after a rain, kill some weeds that come from the rain, and we'll plant the cover crop for the next year. But we will, and then also, here, that's it. On us growing 20 different crops, a lot of high vegetable crops, that's all we're putting on is compost, cover crops, crop residue, and EM1. Has anybody used EM1? I think actually even in the animal world, this is a good product, okay? And it's also extremely cheap. And seaweed, we put on seaweed, everything we plant, we put on EM1 and seaweed, cover crops, whatever. And I highly recommend both of them, and the main reason is it's really cheap, okay? So like on our farm, those costs right there is 12 bucks an acre. Once we plant, that's the last input on the tomatoes. Our costs on growing a crop that's worth $6,000 to $7,000 an acre, we've got the cost of compost and the cost of EM1 and seaweed. And then that's it, okay? So which also makes the potential for your profit margin to increase. And all of it, and it's what we go through the talk, is also everything we're doing is positive, okay? People could say no because you're tilling. Okay, I'm not going to fight it right this second. But everything else is the ground's only getting better. It's only getting better. You're not degrading anything. And so why would you let a natural resource go to hell? Why not keep building on it and take advantage of what it can do? Next. And so that I just showed the compaction. So this is what we run. Instead of the giant rig that I showed the picture of on the wheat field, this is all we're doing. But we're going in about 18 inches with this, and we go in and we rip right where all the traffic is, okay? And so that breaks that up. That's what our tillage is. Next, please.
How big a tractor is that?
Actually, you could pull that with about 110 horsepower. Yeah, it actually works up. So this is a schematic of sort of what we're doing on disturbing the soil, okay? So here's where those two rippers are running. All our operation, we have 3 5-foot beds. Okay, everything's 15 foot. Every implement we have is the same. All the tractor activity is right here and right here. And so this is where we don't rip every year. We'll rip maybe, it depends on what the next crop is. If it's tomatoes, we definitely will. If it's rice, corn, we won't touch it. Okay, but if we need to, or if we're following tomatoes and say we're going into fresh market squash, we go in and rip it and loosen it up. And that, we need weed control and a lot. This is the key, big deal for us in tillage and why we have to do it. And I have a list of 21 reasons why we have to do tillage, which we'll get to later. Next, please. So this is another one. I call it's minimalism, but it's conserving inputs. So through time, we've just found. And again, this is just efficiency and keeping our costs down and not chasing the max input, okay? So we cut back, we use less fertilizer, less water, less plants, and less tillage than I'd say 99+% farmers in California. And it's letting the system do what it's doing. It's not being in a state of panic that the plants and the soil can't figure it out and take care of the problem, okay? So an example, of like on each, I could go on each one, but like on water, because we've changed the soil structure and its retentive ability to hold water, a normal California tomato crop is grown on drip and they're turning the water in the day it's planted. It's a 120-day crop. Then they're irrigating up to 10 days before harvest, right? So they pretty much 110 days, they're spoon feeding that crop. Because we've changed the soil structure so much, when we plant the tomatoes, we'll transplant and we won't turn the water in for 30 to 40 days. We'll just let the plant grow on its own and the moisture is good enough. We'll cut the water 30 to 40 days before harvest to get the quality up instead of just growing a bunch of red water balls. Okay, but we can only pull that off if your soil structure is such, and we're fortunate, we have good topsoil. We'll go, just as an example, we had a cannery man, a tomato cannery man from Hunt West, and I can criticize the hell out of them because they're not in our area anymore and I don't need them. But so he comes out and he goes, Scott, your sugars or soluble solids are low. You know, you're irrigating too late in the season. I'm going, I'm not irrigating too late in the season. Well, I got to be nice because I need the contract. And so I say, well, let's go out and probe and see just where that soil profile, where the water is. Okay, so I have a soil probe and I have extensions. You can keep adding. The first 6.5 feet that we went down was dust. No roots, totally bone dry. In other words, the plants had sucked the system dry. At 6.5 feet, the roots were damn near like my pinky. And that's what was covering and supporting the plant. We had a really nice crop. It had really good quality, but the root system went down and it was doing so well, it still kept the water profile a little high in the plant and hurt the sugars. Being the usual considerate cannery man, I say, so like, see, I didn't irrigate too late. And he goes, hey, don't farm this field ever again then. You know, I mean, honestly, he did say that. So as if I have a bunch of fields, I'll just discard this one and go get another one. You know, but I can get carried away on canneries. So the other one is, and this is almost, especially in the tillage thing, is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Like we get criticized by environmentalists or purists or whatever that no, you guys shouldn't till. Well, we couldn't do what we're doing. We couldn't because you've seen what it's done in the tomatoes. We are going to disturb that soil, but there's a long list that goes with it. But basically, this system makes our whole farm work. And as long as you're moving forward, I really believe this strongly, as long as you're moving forward, and maybe it's small steps, but you're moving forward. And if all farming was moving forward and improving the soil, improving the environment, improving the life of the people in your community, when we have a much better place without having to do anything else rash. It's just, but if you take the attitude, no, everything's got to be perfect, everything's got to look just right for all environmentalists, it doesn't make sense because we couldn't stay in business, and then where are we? Next. So the crew, yeah, we try and keep our crew around the year. They're really well taken care of. We don't have any turnover. And it's important because we don't have foremans. We don't want people fighting over, oh, I want this guy's position. Everyone's treated the same. Or the people that do better are paid more, right? But that's it. You want to get more money? Become more valuable and you get more money. Profit sharing is huge. Really, no matter what business I'd have, profit sharing be included. They have a vested interest. You know, I give the example in our area, one of our workers is driving home at night. We might have some sprinklers running early in the season for some special crop. If he thinks you're taking advantage of him, drives right by it, right? As you've got the geyser shooting up in the air. If they have profit sharing, hey, guess what? They get out, they put the sprinkler head back on. So it's selfish in a sense, but either way, they're happy, they're making good money, and we have a lot less labor problems. Next. Critter cover, which this probably should be border management, but it doesn't have a C, so we got critter cover. But so we try to have all our fields look like this. This is in the late winter. Okay, we've got a cover crop, but we've also placed a lot of value on the borders, and we really realized this about 10 years ago. This is that whole idea of keeping the system complete. Okay, until about 2014, we really didn't respect the borders. You know, they were just there. But when we started realizing, look at the pollination, look at the flowering, look at the cover that it's giving. Most farmers in California don't want to see one animal on their ground. Okay, they honestly don't. And we do have owl boxes there. We probably have a few more gophers than we want. But for the most part, we feel our system's running right when we're seeing foxes and deers and raccoons and possums and squirrels and gophers and rabbits, because now this is the way it's supposed to be, right? You don't want to pull one. I'm actually sort of the opposite of science. They want to pull one part out and look at it. I don't want one part pulled out. I want to keep the whole system as close as possible to just being a complete system that runs on its own. And if any dying questions anyone has, fire away. Go ahead. So again, this is just a picture. Now we're going into the results side, the plant health, and what are we getting out of that next? Okay, this is just a cover crop, and it's a good example. It's what we want. We've got rhizo sheaths. We've got nodulation. We actually have a thatch there, which kind of looking at the picture the other day, I was surprised that it built up. So I'm guessing this must have been coming out of wheat. That we still had a lot of the wheat straw left. And this is a dry winter, because that's pretty dry dirt. But I'm guessing this was in February. We probably had not gotten any rain to speak of that year. Next. So in 2014, this Shumei organization, it's called Shumei Natural Agriculture, came to the farm and said, we'd like you to grow rice. And we read your website, and we think that they didn't say it, but you're crazy enough, you're going to try this. Okay? And so what they said, the Shumei Natural Agriculture, we believe that the earth, the sun, water, and the human spirit is all that's needed to grow a crop of rice. So would you grow rice for us? Because the Japanese, it's part of their culture. They weren't getting it, they're having problems getting it from Japan. So I said, well, I've never tried growing anything without fertilizer, but yeah, if you want to pay double, because I'm going to get half a crop, I'll go ahead and try it. So they said, fine, we're in. You can charge us whatever you wanted. That's how bad they needed it. So anyway, look at the yield. First time we pulled in, it was 6,700 sacks. Okay, 6,700 pounds, excuse me, compared to normal for this variety of 5,500. I mean, I talked about an epiphany in '85 on pulling into good ground. This was the second big one. I went, whoa, maybe we're onto something. We didn't even realize how healthy the soil was. Yes?
Are you flooding there?
Yes. Yeah.
For wheat control?
Totally. Yeah. Well, and then during the season, it stays flooded. We actually plant rice way different than anyone pretty much in California. Most of it we drill into moisture. We pre-irrigate to kill, and then we scratch it to knock the weeds down, and then we drill into moisture. And so we'll have rice that'll be like 8 inches tall before it actually ever sees a drop of water. So when we're growing rice like that, without the initial flood, our water usage is probably like 80 to 85% of normal. Yeah.
And one clarification, are you saying that the yield is higher growing this way, or
higher? Yeah, not only higher, but way higher.
5,500 pounds is the conventional?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all with no inputs. That's nothing other than the normal pattern. Next. Tomatoes. So I've talked to you, mentioned the water cutoff. You see Davis comes out and they're saying, they think I'm blowing smoke again. And so they said, let us run the trials. Let's see what you got. And so this was, again, water cutoff 45 days before harvest. I put 14 because I didn't want to overblow it, but it's even less than that really for conventional. And a good organic processing yields 40 tons. And this went 62, being water cut off 6.5 weeks before harvest. Next. So this is a really good example on how your soil changes over time. Okay, so these two fields, both of them, I had control of. Okay, the one on the right, I had for 10 years. The one on the left, the farmer was actually going broke and said, Scott, would you take over this farm and convert it to organic? I just want to make money on rent and what have you. Both fields were in rice the season before. Then I got this field in the fall. Went in and did the same work on here as I did in here. Both fields I went in and planted a cover crop. Pineapple Express, you people from the east, probably, I don't know if you get anything like what we get. You get your hurricanes. We don't get hurricanes. But we do get Pineapple Express, where it just comes shooting through from Hawaii, and we can get copious amounts of water dumped in a short time. And that's what happened on this field. So look, these two fields are about 1/3 of a mile apart, exact same soil. Rice the year before, one has gotten cover crops care for 10 years. The other one has just been treated like a conventional rice field. And look at the difference. Not a drop of water is leaving our field. Next. So this is a pretty big deal also, especially for if you want to see a drop in chemicals being used in the country. So again, being my braggadocio self, I'm with a professor at UC Davis, and I'm going, we just don't have insect problems. And again, Amelie Godin, she's a professor of agroecology at UC Davis. She's an absolutely wonderful woman. And again, she calls me out on it. She goes, well, let's see. I say, I'm in. So they come out and they get 5-gallon buckets of our soil, and they get 5-gallon buckets of soil around UC Davis. Okay, and then they put a tomato transplant in all the buckets. They let it grow up to about this height. They put a net over these 5-gallon buckets, and then they put beet leaf hoppers under the net and just see how they feed. You can tell a beet leaf hopper when it chews on a plant because it will leave a little puncture mark. So they could actually go in. 2 weeks later, they went in, they took the net off, and students went through and counted how many hits the beet leafer got. Also, beet leaf hoppers are the worst insect for the San Joaquin Valley in tomatoes. They can almost completely wipe out your tomato crop. And I will give a reasoned explanation on that one in just a second. So anyway, the one that says SP, which Amelie wasn't supposed to do because she presented this to the annual meeting of the California, CTRI is California Tomato Research Institute, okay? And there's 14 farmers on this research institute. 13 extremely wealthy, huge blocks of ground, couldn't be better off, and then I was on it, okay? So Amelie gives a presentation and she's going, so this is Scott's field, so see how it's done to everything else. We're like 8 times better than the next, up to 20 times better. What was going on? Why did the beet leaf hopper want to hit, right, chew on these other plants, puncture on them, and not on ours? So she did, and she took our soil again, and then she put half of it and microwaved it and completely sterilized the soil. And that's because she's going, well, is it your microbes? Is it the life in the soil that's doing it for you? Or is it just your life that you have around the field and you have beneficials that are coming and eating the bad guys, or what? So she ran the tests again with our microwave soil versus our regular soil. Same results. That which was our regular soil 10 times better than that which was microwave, which is saying microbes, plant, they're talking. Okay, what are they saying? I'm getting attacked, right? And so the screen goes down through the root system. However it works, the microbes then go, here, try this. And they send salicylic acid up through the plant. It's exuded on the leaves. Beet leaf hoppers don't want to be near it. Okay, now I mentioned this bit about the San Joaquin and the rich guys. So after the talk, the general manager comes up to me and he goes, oh, Scott, you're going to get hammered at lunchtime. These guys have got to know what you're doing. Anyone want to guess how many questions I got from these other growers? Right, 0. Crickets. You know, and so like you're just going, this encapsulates the problem that we have. Change is going to be a bitch because they're very happy in their cocoon. And it's really got to be a money-driven thing, but I'm getting away. I'll keep my rap going here. Okay, go. Next. So there's just a little quick, all this, I don't like data any more than you do. The only thing is that shows that we are fungi, even though we're doing tillage, we're tending to keep the good fungi, having less of it. Okay, that's basically what that says. Next one. The same thing on bacteria. Ours is up here. This is the bacteria, also really active, really in balance. So they're verifying your system's alive and it's working functionally very well. Your fungi is fine, your bacteria is fine. Next. So also, and this is like what I think can save organic farming and move the needle, is nutrient density. Okay, I really, that's where we can go. That's where we can give a reason for consumers to buy our product in something instead of from a CAFO or hydroponics that are totally empty, right? Of life and energy, of things like polyphenols, Chico State University's out testing our fields now every year, and we're running about 28% higher on polyphenols. Next. I think we're running 41% higher on antioxidants. This kind of data, can be moved to consumers. It's still in its infancy. Still, there's not a lot like these. To do these sampling, it took about 2 months to get actually the data. So there's still a huge drag going on. But to me, this is the selling point that I think we can really impact the organic market. Next. Okay, real boring. Just look at the gray. Okay, Paul and I were doing trials here for the conservation innovation. I don't know if growers or grant, whatever the G was. And so we're experimenting. How much can we cut down on ops? That's the 4, the gray. Just worry about the gray. And then our normal farming practices, we do twice as many. The gray is disturbing the soil. Okay, so I got it down to 4. And then our normal operation's 8, and then just to give you a comparison, a conventional would be 20. But not only is it the 20, it's violent. Okay, I mean, they're going in and they're beating and pulverizing and working deep. And so it's not just the amount of passes, it's the nature of most of their passes. Throw on top synthetic herbicide, fungicides, fertilizer, yeah, that's not moving in the right direction. Next. This one again, it's just sort of an idea. Most conventionals, tomato to tomato, 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 as ours is in a rotation. The only thing of value here is sort of, if you look at what we're doing here, it's pretty positive, shallow, and not a negative for the ground. Whereas in here, both violent and both totally inundating it with chemicals. And this is the norm. We are the oddball. Okay, like this is 99% of California large farming is like that, which is on the left. Next. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 examples here of our farm system, tillage, things go right. I got more things on things go wrong. But this one, so this is what it's like in a nice world on park farming organics. We can't find equipment to fit dealing with biomass in California because there's no biomass. Okay, there's no reason for an equipment dealer to carry tillage tools on working and dealing with stuff that's this deep or this deep that you're incorporating in the soil. So Paul and I are having to build and modify whatever we get because in California, so we've gone to the Midwest, we've gone to Europe to get what we need, and then we make it to fit what we're doing anyway. So in here, like we designed this and we took it to a machine shop, and of course the machine shop completely corrected our design and made it workable. But so this runs in front of the tractor. Now what's the big deal about running in front? Because if the tractor tires step on all this biomass, now you've got a lot of long tangly stuff that causes you headaches through the season. Okay, especially in us furrow irrigating, trying to not have. So what we do is we want to chop it. These front ones, they don't cover the whole bed, right? They're just covering that which is in the furrow. And then behind it, the video isn't showing on the way this is presented. Behind it, we have a regular chopper. And so then we have just this, and this is what it looks like the past row. Like, because of the difference in color, this is probably the start in the morning, and this was done the day before.
So, Scott?
Yes.
The back mower is the full width of the...
Yeah, exactly. But the back mower, because it's just working on top of the bed, won't reach into the furrow. So these have the tines are modified. They actually taper like this to work down get into the bottom of the furrow, to work everything as fine as this. Then for us, this is where we go, and we do, next one shows it. Oh, there we go. So, and this is ideal cover crop for us coming into March. We don't want a giant amount of cover crop. It's done its bid. It's done all the other good things that happens during the winter of having life in the soil. So that you see the tines sort of, maybe you can. So yeah, you ranchers are probably going, oh man, I'd like the cows to get after that, huh? Well, same thing for a row crop. I feel really good when I see this because this is right. The year's going to go smoother, okay? It's going to go smoother because we have a nice consistent amount of legumes. They're going to be easy to be put in. They're going to break down really easy. All our ops are going to run relatively smooth. Stretch for our farm, but relatively smooth. Next, please. So yeah, we've got this joker. I think it's out of Austria, Horsch. Probably some of you have Horsch, and then the same thing. The vertical tillage, we're not flipping, right? You just kind of see where it dug in. Yes, we were doing tillage, but yes, we want soil to biomass contact. Okay, we're not doing anything more than we need to do. I haven't used the term, but actually our farm does targeted tillage. Just like those rippers that I showed earlier, right? We're not ripping everything. Where does it need to be done? And where it needs to be done, that's where we do it. Okay, so like on this, what needs to be done is we can't leave it as it is. We need that soil to biomass contact. And then again, even going to Europe to get something, we have to build, like these are shovels, and they're spring loaded, and what they do is they're clearing out the furrow. Because we furrow irrigate, we can't have a lot of biomass in the furrow. Water runs, pushes the biomass, dam builds up, spreads across the bed, drowns the tomato plant. Okay, not good farming. Next. So this isn't that field, but I just wanted to show, we run this a lot. If we're following something like wheat and we're going to be planting a cover crop behind it, we'd be running the back roller to boot. A lot of the next shot, please. Like on this one, this is what you just saw, the veg crop, but we've just run the one flat roller. So now this is ready to roll. Now we'll let this sit 2 weeks, 10 days. We always want to have 10 days at least between. No matter what good insect program you have, you put a bunch of green mass in the ground, you're going to have a week or 10 days of insects that you didn't even know going nuts in your ground. And if you put your plant or your seed in the ground, they don't differentiate, right? So they puncture and poke holes in the seed to boot. So we always wait at least, depends on the weather pattern. The warmer it is, the less you need to wait. The cooler it is, you wait 2 weeks or more. Okay, but we'd come in now after the next, please. So yeah, this is ugly, lot of iron, but we'll run this. And anyone run Lillistons? There you go. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is a really old style tool, but it's really good. And it'll work 2 or 3 inches deep. So we run this right before we plant the tomatoes in order to sprout those weeds, because we rolled it down, moisture comes up, middle of the spring, now here come your spring weeds, knock the spring weeds down lightly, work only as deep as you need to, plant the tomatoes, let them grow. 30, 40 days later, you're coming in and cultivating and irrigating. Okay, and just as for equipment junkies, this is a valuable part. So we made this whole full bed knife, and then we put a little pipe in the back of it. And if any of you have been cultivating in somewhat moist soil, and you think you did a great job of cultivating, boy, yeah, those plants are dead. And then like a week later, they're back. Well, it's because there was pretty good moisture in the ground, and the roots, even though it was cut, that root is touching moisture and soil, it takes off growing again. Okay, so yeah, you're better off than not, but not much better. But this little piece of pipe we found gives it a bump. Okay, it breaks that ground free instead of just running the knife through and cutting it. And that bump, we just find maybe it works 50% effective on stopping that plant in the spring when there's pretty good moisture of growing back again. So we'll run this, and we'll run that flat roller I showed you, and we'll plant the transplants, and we're off. And when we plant, that's when we put on the EM and seaweed. That's it all season long. And we'll go, I mean, everyone, like we've probably used an insecticide 5 times in the last 12 years on 20 different crops a year. The system of taking care of the plant, letting the soil do it, doing what we're doing, it works remarkably well. Next. Oh, why do I do this to myself? So, yeah, this is the other side of the coin. You saw the one, right? So this is what happens when it keeps raining in California. into late. We want rains normally in California, at least for the Sacramento Valley. A lot of times we're done by early March of rains. We might have a sporadic rain sometime in April or maybe a little one in May. But for the most part, we'll go 6 to 8 months without a drop of water. Okay, I mean, irrigation is definitely. So here, when we have pineapple expresses and it keeps raining into March, into April, we can't work the ground, we can't chop that cover crop. Okay, so what happens is most everything doesn't grow very fast in California until about early March. Okay, then the days start getting longer, they're getting warmer. Now, weeds that were like this in late February are like this at the end of March. Okay, and the drawback is you've got all this biomass that you've got to put in the ground, and you've got to plant a transplant right away. Another listener. Next, please. So this is just a yetter. This is in the same field. We tried running it. It was a waste of time. It had no impact. But because this was mustard and vetch, it actually worked up and we got a really nice crop on it, an excellent crop. But now we go to the next headache, please. So this is same year, same field, another field that we can't get into. This one's grass. Also, just note, a lot of the ground that we're farming years and years ago was walnuts. What are the prevalent weeds we're fighting? Grasses, which grew all into May amongst the walnuts, or mustard. So we still have a hangover from what went on 60 years ago. Okay, so anyway, this is the nightmare for us because it's not a legume, or it's not a forb. It doesn't break down easy. It drains the soil of moisture. Next. So this, yeah, I think we jumped one. Go down. Okay, go to the next one. Yeah, okay, so in here you saw the yetter that was running, didn't do squat. But so in here we just took a Lillison and we stripped it all off except for keeping 2 gangs because we didn't want to try and plant the transplant into that thatch. So that worked as a residue manager. Next. And so it sort of looked like this, okay, that we took and cleared out the path in order to plant the transplants. Next. So yeah, I would say there's no picture in California from a farm that is like this, because nobody will let it get to this condition. I don't want it to get to this condition, but I didn't have control over it. So anyway, there are 6 people on the plant, on the harvest, on the transplant sled, and then these 2 people are following, just filling in blanks that the others didn't hit. Planting it into super thatch. Well, what's it look like? Next, please. Go ahead next. That's it. So, pretty healthy dirt. I mean, the earthworms are going berserk. It's holding moisture. This is doing everything that people are emphasizing no-till. Oh yeah, your ground's going to be beautiful. And it is. It's working really nice. Okay? However, you just see on the edge, next please, grasses going crazy. And then if we hadn't gone in and cultivated this a week later, you wouldn't even see that it was a tomato field. They were taking off like they were on a happy drug and going nuts. Okay, so what do? Well, you got to cultivate. Next, please. So, next. So we went through and cultivated. There's a farmer here going, oh man, that looks really good. Phew, good farmer. Way to go. But looks are deceiving. So we incorporated all that biomass in order to get to the grass and kill it. We actually tried running first. We didn't want to disturb it. And so Paul knows there's these spinners we've been messing with. They're basically a circle that's hydraulically driven with some knives put on the outside of it, and then we just turned it horizontal instead of having it vertical, trying to run just above the thatch, but cutting the grass down. Maybe we'd have to do 2 or 3 times during the season, but it didn't work. There was too much up and downs because of the thatch, and it was nose diving into dirt. It was missing everything. So we went in and cultivated it, and yeah, we felt really good. So this had the potential to be a 50-plus ton crop. Went 25, okay? And it went 25, and it just never quite grew because we put all that biomass in, and it was so much if we'd put this biomass in a month and a half earlier, it would have been great. But you can't jam it tight together. And that's where our farm gets really hurt in the spring of these late rains. We have grasses, cereals grow. we've got to get something planted, and it's almost, we shouldn't even plant it. Okay? I mean, we're really slow learners because we keep doing it. Yeah.
It just tied up the nitrogen?
Yes. Yeah. As well as I can explain it, the microbes choose carbon over taking care of the cash crop. So the nitrogen is consumed on giving them the energy to break down the carbon. So for them, you know, again, getting into arenas I don't understand it all, is they want balance, okay? So right now, that let's say the CN ratio by putting this biomass under is probably like 35 to 1, okay? Instead of like maybe 14 to 1. And so that's what they're doing. Logically, it just makes sense. We're always trying to get it to the condition that's best for us. And them taking care of the cover crop, they're not getting a piece of the action. There's no profit sharing for the microbes. Next. Okay, so we go listen to Gabe Brown and Ray Archuleta and Alan Williams, and we feel really good about our farm, right? We did their Understanding Ag 3-day, Brian and I, and we came out of that going, you know, we're really kidding ourselves. We're not very good. We can do a lot better. And so we tried what they suggested, okay? And what they're suggesting is, which you've probably all heard, right? 1 is don't disturb the soil. 2, multi-species cover crops. 3, graze. So, religiously, we tried that. And by the way, if you're going to do something extreme, do it like on 10 acres, not 250, okay? So here, normal, here on a wheat crop, we would go in and we'd disc it, we'd reshape the beds, we would flood it, and I don't know if any of you ever harvested and had seed fall out of the back of your harvester. We're really good at that too. But it also serves as your cover crop in the summer. So you just pre-irrigate, you have a bunch of volunteer wheat come, maybe you plant a little black eyes or something, get some legumes in the mix, costs extremely low, right? Really good for the ground. We've been doing it since 1986, no problems. So of course we got to do something different. And so we tried no-till planting instead of disking. We planted a multi-species instead of just letting it grow, maybe planting some black eyes. Next. So, and then we cover the third leg of it. We do the grazing, all right? And then over to the right, that's what the summer cover crop looked like. I don't know if that's sun hemp growing. Really, if you can grow a cover crop, I'm not sure on your land, on your topography, on your latitude and what have you, but for us, because it's also a legume. So it's one of those rare where you're getting a lot of biomass, but you're still getting a legume, and it grows, like this is in about 60 days. It grows really fast also. So, so now we've done this, now we can use all the fancy terminology, right? Now we can reference iron, now the animals are the iron, and yeah, now we've got armor. So yeah, we're okay. Now we're real good farmers now. Okay, so what happens? Next. Most of it I've already explained. The key is, here's the 3, no-till, multi-species, grazed. That's what we did different, but we didn't do it all season long. This occurred between July and October, okay? After that, after HAT, all our ops were the same. So that was the only thing that was done different was between July to October, the no-till, the multi-species, and the grazed. Okay, we did it on tomato crops, sunflower, and corn. Look at the difference in yield. Our normal ops 51. Cadillac, that's what this was the reference. The Cadillac is these 3. 27. Corn, we do 5.5 tons. We're doing 4. Sunflower, we're getting 1.8 ton. We're getting 1.3. Who knows why that happened? I'll pay you $10,000 if you can tell me what happened. I have honestly talked to agronomists. I've probably talked to 30 different people that are well versed in academia, PCA, CCAs. No answer has been given to me except for right there. No answer has been given to me that I can't refute. Go ahead, put me down. Yes, if this occurred right before I planted. But this was done, we finished those ops in late October. So then we went in and we opened up the ground. We ripped the furrows, we ripped the center of the bed because it's going to tomatoes. So it did get air. But otherwise, I'm also an air fan. So anyway, we know we don't know anything, but carbon, some way we messed up the cycle of what's going on. And I was talking to somebody about it today. We're finding, I've been using a term that's corny, but I found out that I'm pretty accurate. And so when we're bringing in new fields, when we're transitioning, like right now we're transitioning in 3 fields from conventional to organic. And I've been using the term, we're training the microbes, you know, because we are. Their diet's always been synthetic. And so instead of the synthetic diet, we are now training you to live on biomass and figure it out. And so that's why the transition period, there's a shock time, and that one fits. It's slow. The microbes, you know, I give the example of you being a vegetarian and going to a Morton's and having a 16-ounce filet mignon, right? If you're a vegetarian, how do you think you're going to feel after that? Pretty bad. Well, our gut biome is the same as the soil. So if the soil's never getting this blast of carbon, it doesn't know what to do with it for a while. And that's like, and it's the time period of actually certifying for organic over 3 years is really very appropriate. We found that it takes about 4 years to get the cycle going. So this fits it. So yeah, and do it on a small scale. Yes.
Can I get a crack at your $10,000?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll gladly give it to you.
In saying what you did there, you should have lost, they say it takes 3 years, so you should have lost $1.5 million by doing it for 3 years, and then it would have, you changed the whole culture of your soil. Do you think maybe that...
If I stayed with it for 3 years.
Well, but I'm just saying, you know, maybe you did something so radically different that you changed the whole cycling of how the soil knew to respond.
You're close enough. In fact, you're going to get $1 that 10,000. Okay. So, but actually, Paul is hitting on something that I was just starting to develop, but as usual, my mind wanders away. So, I actually just this last week was talking to a soil microbiologist at UC Davis, and he said that's pretty much what Paul was saying. You train the microbes, and that's which I also said that I was actually right about that. And the microbes get to expect this certain way that you're farming. And if you shock it and you go somewhere radically different, it's almost the Morton steak thing, where they're starting over. They don't quite know what to do with it. So maybe $2, not just $1. Next. So we're going to save this to the last, but this is getting into discussing targeted tillage, conservation tillage versus no-till. And so this is just for our farm. I've got this list of for us, where we are, for what we're doing, 21 reasons why we do tillage. Okay, now we've been through my bummers farming, so we'll finish on a little positive note. Okay, you read that. So, this nice crop, but how are you going to harvest it? So, I'm definitely, there's no limits. I'll try anything, anytime. Okay, and I probably could have been really wealthy in 10 years, 51 years. I'm okay, but no better. Because I do stuff like this. And somebody comes to me, we grow a lot of seed crops, and they go, so can you grow elephant sunflower? I don't know what elephant sunflower. Sure, I can grow it. Yeah, can you grow 40 acres of it? Yeah, fine, let's plant it. So we planted it, it's growing really beautiful. As we're coming and it's getting close to harvest, and I'm looking, I'm going, that's 18 feet tall. It's like, have you ever watched harvesters run? Like the highest the header's going to get is about this high. So we pull in the sunflower harvester, and the whole plant is just going whop over the side, and all the seeds go flopping over the other side of the harvester. Long story short, anybody ever play pickup sticks? Yeah. Young? Huh? That's what we had in the field, is we tried to harvest all the sunflowers. One would fall over the other and this and that. I mean, it took us days and days to harvest, and we got about 30% of the crop. So, yeah, give a little thought to what you're getting into. So, in the final couple is just sort of giving respect to nature. So these next two are sort of my favorite pictures of what happens if you just let nature be nature. So this guy who is prone to be drinking a cold one going down the levee at 6 in the morning didn't do quite very good management with his tractors. No, it's not mine, okay? But it is only about 1.5 miles from our farm. So you see they took off gas tanks. I just like to point out he probably just had a plugged fuel filter, okay? But either way, he parked this, I think it was a John Deere 70, and there was probably a young oak sapling sitting under it. Well, this is like 65 years ago, okay? And this is what nature can do. And the last shot, this is from the other side. It absolutely crushed the tractor, crushed it. Nothing else was done to it. It was just left. Nature was doing what nature can do. So, and I put a macro example because this is nature functioning in the largest scale. It's easy for us to see. But it's not like it only happens above ground, right, with trees. This same war is going on under the ground. This is how can we work and go with the flow of the life in the soil and not be so invasive. So that's it for today, and we can discuss that long list of tillage stuff or whatever, Dave, Lindley, you want to do. What's that?
I want to get a picture of that slide with all the list of reasons for, yeah, that one.
Where's the 21st? That's what I'm wondering.
You said 21, Scott. You said 21.
There's 20.
Oh, there's 20, yeah. Actually, okay, there was 20. What was the one I thought of? There's one of the, no, that I know the last one. Yeah, anyway. Oh, is there only 20 showing? Oh, there is 21. Maybe it doesn't fit on the screen. Yeah, sorry. No, it's not showing. Okay.
Next year for the 20.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got to keep you on edge. So, any rebuttals or think I need a lobotomy or yes?
So the thought on that $10,000 question, maybe you needed to farm more poorly before you switched over to the other technique. You're just farming too good.
Oh, I'd like to think that, but I know better. Yeah, no. So, but yeah, these are just, and it's good to have this one up because I've been messing with since 1997 trying to grow no-till, okay, working with Jeff Mitchell at UC Davis. And I completely, it's fine with me if I could figure out how to do it and get the results that I'm getting. But again, it gets down to that, don't let the perfect eliminate the good. Is our farm, is the soil getting better every year? You know, and is the community getting better? Is the environment getting better? We're moving in the right direction. We aren't moving as fast as we used to. You tend to plateau. What do you think, Paul? Where's Paul? Can't leave me alone out here. But yeah, you can, and UC Davis actually seeing it too, and other, or Ed Sills, another grower in California, that our organic matter and our positive results, they're not going downhill, but it's not anywhere near improving. But a lot of this stuff, for 35 years now, we've been putting 10 to 15 tons of biomass in the ground. And so it sort of planes out. It doesn't, in our environment, your environment, you may be able to do it forever and keep seeing the growth. We seem to be tapping out in our area. The organic matter is about 2, maybe 1.8 to 2.2. So we're at around 3.5. Summer's up to 3.8, some's up to 4.2, 4.4. But for the most part, 3.8, we seem to be hitting. That's about, California, our turnover, our heat, the moisture, whatever it is, the crops we're growing, it's really hard to get that organic matter up. So we've bumped it up about 1.5%, which is really good. But it's not just that, it's all those other positives, right, of my stupid cartoon. But that's what we're getting from it, and it's respecting the soil and taking care of it, keeping your costs in line, making a buck. So you can't be greedy. You've got to take a long-term approach on this. So my suggestion is you get the field, let's say you got it in the fall, you plant a cover crop, a real simple one. I highly recommend anyone taking on growing cover crops their first time, grow legumes, and specifically veg, because it's really user-friendly. okay? Where most farmers, when they start messing with cover crops, they're looking for a reason to not grow it. They don't want it to succeed. They like their cocoon just the way it is. So don't give them that out. Okay? So you suggest they grow a veg. Then in the spring they come in and they plant in our area something like safflower. Super simple, not much money, but you don't have any money out. Take the safflower crop off, plant, if you can, quick summer cover crop, follow again with a winter cover crop, then go in and plant sunflowers, okay? So in those 2 years, you probably didn't make any money at all, okay? But then after the sunflower, you're planting another cover crop coming into that 3rd year. So just think, you put in the safflower biomass, you put in 3 cover crops, you're putting the sunflower, all of it's going in the ground, all of it's building up, and it's training your microbes. This is what you're getting, guys. No more synthetic, no more urea. This is the real deal. Adjust. And so then your 3rd year, depends on how you're reading your soil, you could go and even do a 1-year alfalfa, or you could just go and grow. If timing right, you could even plant a high-value crop. And the first day of the 4th year, you'd be harvesting it for organic. But the idea is, which we did, okay, so I've transitioned 35 fields from conventional to organic over the years. And in the first 10, 15 fields that I transitioned in, I had the attitude, I'm going to make as much money this year as I can. Because, you know, it's going to be 3 years before it's organic, but I can't just put the money out. No, that money's going out no matter what. It's either going to go out with you having low costs and building the ground, or high costs and not building the ground. So that's what we do. And it tends, yeah, so I finished that by saying, okay, you kind of went in the hole for 2 years, but now that 4th year you harvest, you've got a gold mine, right? It's getting better. In the 5th year, now you're getting your premium, you got your premium in the 4th year, and now after 5 years, your ground's much better than what it was 5 years ago. Instead of a conventional field, 5 years down the road, it's that much worse. So all that money's going out. That's where you got to have that long-term mindset. This is just putting money in the bank. I'm not getting it now, but I'm going to get it back over time. None of that money's being wasted.
Thank you for listening to the Real Organic Podcast. Our movement is growing because you're subscribing and sharing these podcasts with your friends. So keep it up and leave us a rating and a review as well so that others can find us. You can find a video version of this interview on our newly designed website, realorganicproject.org, or on our YouTube channel. And you can join us every Thursday for a new episode featuring voices from the organic movement. See you next time.